Hello, everyone, and welcome to Health and Happiness at Work. This podcast is for busy working adults trying to figure out how to better take care of themselves and others. My name is Katie, and I will be your host. We are here today because adulting is hard and because busy working adults spend more time at work than anywhere else. We're going to have real conversations about real life and, most importantly, swing into action on the biggest opportunities. We're going to talk about ways to layer health, fitness, and wellness directly into your workday so that you feel fantastic. I cannot wait to dive deeper into each of these topics related to health and happiness. You are not alone. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Health and Happiness at Work. I am Katie, your host, and as promised, we are taking a slightly different approach to each episode. I like to keep things interesting. I like to work organically, and you're very much witnessing the creative process as I put together this first season of Health and Happiness at Work. So today I thought we could focus specifically on mindset and look at how mindset plays into motivation. Motivation is something that many people wrestle with and will come to me and ask for support. So I thought this was a perfect next step for us to explore and discover. I think you'll find my sharing today to be that of a storyteller. I'm going to share some things about myself and my family, and I do this because it informs my work and it helps you to understand why I'm motivated to do what I do. And it's my hope that I can tie it all together so that you can see and understand how mindset and motivation work hand in hand. That said, I want to tell you about somebody super special. Her name is Margaret Nicholas, aka Grandma Peggy. She's my grandmother. She is 98 years old. She is someone who has modeled a lot of healthy behaviors. Up until recently, she was leading workouts at her senior living facility. She was teaching Spanish class. She was doing arts and crafts. Things have changed for her this year, but she's still active. And whenever I visit my grandmother, she's in Nashville, Tennessee, I'm really moved by something that I see in her apartment. In her apartment, on the mirror in her bathroom, there is a quote. And I read it every single time I'm there. I take a picture of it every single time I'm there. And I read it and I say to myself, I have to believe this is the reason or part of the reason this woman is 98 years old and still able to do so many things for herself. So I thought I'd read it to you today. Maybe you've heard it before. I know this has been featured in publications over the years. I think she clipped it from a newspaper article a while ago. It's simply titled Attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearances, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for the day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. This was written by Charles Swindoll. And I think the first sentence really hits me the most. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. And again, my grandmother's 98 years old, and I can't help but make that correlation between attitude and longevity. And mindset is our topic for today. Another way to define mindset is to simply refer to it as an attitude. attitude is everything. I've had jobs, if I'm being honest, in addition to being self-employed, I've had jobs where after a number of years, I distinctly notice a change in my attitude. So much so that I'm showing up as a completely different person. And when I've had those moments, I've made the hard decision of, I think it's time to be done in this role because this is not the best version of me and I'm really wrestling with my attitude. So maybe you're hearing that and maybe you can relate. We spoke last episode about being intentional, about using time in the morning to get clear on what would serve you well that day, about noticing an attitude that is impacting how you show up at work or home or with others. So mindset totally ties to mindfulness, which is another super important wellness focus area that has been a hot topic, will continue to be a hot topic. And as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, wellness is integrative. So all these topics play into one another. We can be mindful and aware of our attitude and mindful and aware of our mindset. I would say there are other moving parts that influence mindset and attitude, and we're going to be exploring some of those today. I thought it was worth sharing some of my own experiences around self-talk, as self-talk is something that absolutely shapes mindset and attitude and experiences. When I was a little girl, I would say age 9 or so, I noticed that I became really good at worrying. I didn't know what to call it. I just knew I had a very busy brain and I would find a variety of things to worry about. I remember my mom going to work, and so maybe I was slightly older, to be home by myself. But I remember being home with my thoughts on summer break and being in this constant place of worry, just finding things to worry about day over day. What's interesting is that summer I took up painting. I had no art training, nothing. I think all I had was a blank notebook and some watercolors, but I found that painting helped me. Fast forward to middle school, high school. Guess what? I kept worrying. The worrying changed. The worrying was different. I had that teenage diary where I'd share all the dramatic thoughts. Fast forward to college. Man, the worrying is really intense. What if this happens? What if that happens? I call it the what if game. The what if game anticipates or worries, what if this happens? What if that happens? The what if game, in my experience, is not always logical. It's really easy for the mind to think ahead and create scenarios that actually elicit and produce a stress response in the body. So this is an interesting side note about stress. We can have a stress response in the body whether a threat is real or perceived. So we can think about something that's a potential threat, a potential worry. And even though it's not reality, it's not actually happening, the worry and the distress manifests in the body. So at this point, I'm in college and I'm discovering that this worrying is just not getting any better. And I would find that I would get hung up on something in particular, and it's like my brain would loop that worry all day long. And let me tell you, if this is not something you've experienced, it's exhausting. It is such an energy drain. I mean, it sucked the life out of me in a lot of ways. It makes it very hard to show up and do your day and for me to do college work when my mind was elsewhere, focused on other things, worrying about things that may or may not ever happen. And so it totally hijacks your quality of life. It totally hijacks your ability to be completely all in on whatever it is you're doing, whether it's school or work or home. And I didn't know what to call this. I don't think people spoke about mental health the way they do now. I sure as hell didn't have any education on stress or anxiety or mental health or healthy coping or mindset in school. That was just not a thing. We had health class, but health class was like, this is the circulatory system. It was not, these are things to notice in your body and mind. That wasn't a thing. So I share all of this with you because it's an important part of my story for why I do the work that I do and why I believe I'm well suited to support others. I've had to figure some things out for myself. I've found this niche of being in the workplace and in the workday, supporting people. And I think this is an important part of my journey to inform why I do the work that I do and why I'm so interested in this idea of mindset and self-talk. Self-talk is anything you say to yourself repeatedly. Maybe some self-talk is one and done, but oftentimes there's self-talk that is recurring and constant. What I've discovered with self-talk, and I'm not the only one, lots of people have studied this over the years, is that whatever you say to yourself repeatedly, you start to believe, whether it's true or not. So I'm going to say that one more time. Whatever you say repeatedly to yourself, you begin to believe, whether it's true or not. So if I look in the mirror and call myself fat, I begin to believe that. That's my narrative. That's my self-talk. The self-talk informs beliefs. And so I can have this belief about myself that's not true or reality, but here I am having it anyway. That ties to another story. I was getting ready to go off to college, my first year of college. I was dancing and I was performing, and there was a professional dancer there who was 100% a role model and mentor for me. I was just like in awe of this woman. She went on to make one comment about my weight, and let me tell you, I completely unraveled. All it took was one person to say one thing about my body, and it completely changed my mindset and my attitude about my own body. It was only said one time by one person, and it completely changed my self-talk. It completely changed my belief. It completely changed my behaviors. So self-talk can shape beliefs, and beliefs shape behaviors. And so I look back over my life at some of these things, and they were really hard. And I had to figure out, how do I get my self-talk and my mindset to a healthier place so that I can feel better and different? So over the last 30 years, considering some of these things I've shared with you today, I've really had to figure out, how do I support myself with the worry? How do I support myself with the anxiety? How do I support myself with the self-talk and how it is impacting my behaviors? And this is, I anticipate, why I'm so fascinated by human behavior. And I could have gone a lot of different directions, but again, I ended up in this space of workplace wellness, and I love it. And ultimately, I am focused all day, every day on behavior change and helping people to experience well-being and grow and develop, feel satisfied in their lives, adopt new and healthier behaviors. And people really wrestle with this, and I get it. I had these experiences growing up, and then fast forward to being a young entrepreneur. I started my first business at 26. And when you're self-employed, or when you're a young professional, I would say especially self-employed, I had to be my own cheerleader. I had to show up every day and psych myself up. There was no boss to report to. Those of you that are self-employed, this is probably getting some nods going. I mean, you really have to show up and be a self-starter and be your own cheerleader. And some days it's really hard. And so you may find, whether self-employed or not, maybe in your career, you get into this place where you're stuck. I call it circling the drain, where you have these looping thoughts. you have looping worries, you have an attitude that is not working for you, it's wearing on you. And so something needs to shift and change to get to a little better or different place. And so this is why I'm super interested in mindset. And over the years, I did get support from a mental health perspective. I've had some great counselors. Over the years, I've had some great coaches. I had one business coach in particular who I swear reset my brain, is how I think of it. Maybe you've heard someone speak before and felt the same way. Like they say the one thing that just really clicks for you and kind of gets you out of that cycle of circling and stuck in that place of thought. So these are the types of things I thought we would explore today. When it comes to self-talk, I really encourage people to first and foremost notice what you say repeatedly. I did mention previously, maybe it's a one and done, but maybe there's a common theme, a common thing that you're saying to yourself, a belief about yourself that is frequent. I hear it a lot when I'm coaching and working with individuals on healthier habits. I hear people say terribly negative things about themselves. Sometimes it's in reference to their body, but oftentimes it's in reference to their willpower. I'll hear people say things like, I'm just so unmotivated. I have no direction. I just can't get going. I can't get started. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so tired. I hear quite a few people say, I'm tired. I don't have energy. I don't this. I don't that. And so if that's your narrative and if that's your reality and that's your all day, every day of you saying that to yourself, then your affirmation is, I have no willpower. That is not what we talked about in Maximize Your Morning. That is not going to lift you up and serve you well. So the first opportunity is to notice the self-talk, notice what's coming up on repeat. And then the second opportunity is to take these patterns of self-talk and to rewrite them and shift from this negative, limiting belief to a more positive, supportive statement. I'll offer up that self-talk is something that takes time. Coming back to this idea of wellness is a process, wellness is personalized. It takes time. And so even as someone who's been working on this for a long time, I'll catch myself in the gym saying something negative about what's possible or how I'm doing or performing. So it's something to be aware of now and ongoing, because it is really, really easy to regress into patterns of self-talk, patterns of thought, and again, these negative limiting beliefs about oneself. Thus far, we've talked about self-talk and how it can impact personal goals, things that you're working on. And we can also look at self-talk in our workday. What are we saying to ourselves about our work, about what's possible for ourselves, about others? I will say that oftentimes people will be harder on themselves than others. We tend to give ourselves a real hard time and have very, very high expectations. And there are things that I think we say to ourselves that we wouldn't say to others. But if you're noticing this pattern of negative self-talk, you might also notice where that judgment is creeping in other ways as well. Whether it's judgment around other people, judgment in the workplace, in the workday. So lots of things for us to look at when it comes to shifting, impacting mindset and attitude. There are some researchers that focus exclusively on mindset. And there's one woman in particular, Carol Dweck, and her book Mindset really dives into two primary mindsets that have been uncovered. One being a growth mindset and the other being a fixed mindset. And somebody with a growth mindset, this is characterized by a willingness to learn and a belief that it's possible to grow and improve and unlock new skills and capabilities. And again, not being defined by a limitation or an obstacle, but seeing it as an opportunity to learn from it and grow and become more capable. As opposed to someone with an inclination to have a fixed mindset, which is characterized by more limited thinking. It's a belief that whatever skills are there, that's all I got. This person does not see a lot of opportunity. They feel more limited by the current situation as opposed to learning and growing and stepping into what's possible. So this might be something that interests you for further study. I think we can keep it pretty high level today and just notice. You're going to hear me say probably 106 times in this season 1 podcast of Health and Happiness at Work, the word notice. I think I continue to come back to the word notice because it's a mindfulness practice, and mindfulness is something that can be layered in to so many different facets of your life. And in noticing, we reveal patterns, and patterns reveal opportunities, and that's really where I find myself coming back to. Next, let's look at a few ways we can support mindset day over day. My first recommendation today is to commit to daily reflection, spending a few moments at the end of each day. This can be in writing, this can be in your own mind, to notice and assess how the day unfolded. We've talked about this before. Wellness is a process, and it takes a willingness to stay committed to the process. But when we reflect, when we create space and time to notice the activity of the day, notice the activity of the mind, notice the self-talk, look at the patterns, that can tell us so much about where the biggest opportunities are for creating change and making improvement toward a healthier mindset. I say that mindset is a daily practice, just like taking a multivitamin or going for a walk or eating your vegetables. I, in my experience, have had to commit to working and shaping my mindset day over day. It is so easy to pick up somebody else's attitude or pick up somebody else's vibe or emotions. And so we are wired to do that. We are empathetic beings, but we also have personal agency in this ability and freedom to choose. And so when I look at mindset day over day, I have to notice and take my own temperature, really. What am I experiencing in this moment? How is it lifting me up and serving me well? Or how is it working against me? How can I shift or change the self-talk and the belief to experience a better and different outcome? And then how do I put this into practice? What are some rituals or routines in my day where I can focus specifically on mindset? Rewinding to last episode, I shared a little bit about my morning routine. Yes, my morning routine was about focused thinking, but really my morning routine is about mindset. I shared with you, I identify an affirmation. I shared with you, I identify an intention. I shared with you, I celebrate whatever I can. I shared with you, I'm committed to learning from the day. Now, I'm not saying I have it all figured out all the time. I'm just saying that this ritual absolutely supports my mindset and has helped me to get out of some places where I felt really stuck. So people will say to me, gosh, Katie, you're just so motivated. And gosh, how do I feel about that statement? I am motivated. Have I always been this motivated? Maybe not always. I think it is something that I have worked on and has improved over time. But part of the reason I'm motivated is because there are a lot of things I'm excited about. And I have spent a lot of time, as you've seen over the last 30 years, noticing what brings me down, noticing what is impacting my attitude, noticing my self-talk, and noticing that I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I did not want to feel like that anymore. There were a lot of years where I was so hung up in my thoughts and my worry and my anxiety, and it was such an energy drain, and it was exhausting, and it was not the best use of my energy. Energy is a precious resource. We're going to talk about that in future episodes as well. And we have to protect our energy and notice what is draining it. And so for me, when my mind and my mindset is not in the healthiest place, I am not motivated. I'm distracted. I'm hung up. I'm frozen. I'm stuck. But when I can support my thinking and my thoughts, my mindset, my attitude, it sends me a completely different direction. Let's talk a little bit about motivation. There are variables that influence human motivation. There are a number of people who have studied this. There is a best practice that is used in counseling and coaching called motivational interviewing. It is a way to elicit conversation and motivation from others through open-ended questions and exploration. And it looks at 3 important variables. It looks at importance, readiness, and confidence. So for someone to be intrinsically motivated, the task or behavior at hand needs to be important to the individual. For the task or the habit at hand to be successful, the person needs to be ready and willing to take action. And the final piece of the puzzle is confidence. For people to be successful in, again, achieving new habits, making life changes, employing this motivation, it takes a certain amount of confidence. Oftentimes, people are not successful in reaching their goals because they don't believe that they can. It's a confidence issue. I've had years and years of experience in helping people to quit tobacco, to quit smoking. And what's interesting is through the process and using these motivational interviewing techniques, I'll ask the question, how confident are you that you can quit? So sometimes people are looking to start behaviors, but sometimes people are looking to stop behaviors. So I'll say, how confident are you that you'll be successful on a scale of 0 to 10? And I think this confidence question, this confidence scale is a real tipping point. It's a real game changer. If your confidence level is 0, that you can eat healthier, if your confidence level is 0, that you can lose weight, if your confidence level is 0, that you can get the promotion, if your confidence level is 0, that you can run a marathon, well, guess what? Do you think there's much motivation to do it? So our biggest opportunity is really to strengthen confidence. I think confidence is a huge tipping point that kind of links mindset to motivation. So the question becomes, what can we do to support you in becoming more confident? How can we stay focused on things that are important, that you're ready and willing to work on? So these are all different avenues we can start to explore to strengthen motivation. Because when it's important to you, when you're ready to do it, and when you're confident you'll be successful, the motivation will be there to do the thing. And I think our mindset and our self-talk plays into all of this. Because again, if you're saying I can't, what's your reality, right? Whether you say you can or can't, you're right. So this is what fascinates me about health and wellness. This is where my brain goes all day, every day, just processing and learning and watching the challenges that people have, coaching and understanding human behavior. And I think it's all really interesting and I think it's really complex. And I think there are a lot of people out there that have personal and professional goals, but we have to peel back some of these layers to help people get where they want to be. And I always say you don't have to go that road alone. It takes a team of support, I think, to sometimes get to that place. But that's a big part of my why. That's why I'm here. That's why this is important to me. Again, I've had to figure it out for myself. I want to help other people to figure it out. And so today was really about looking at mindset, how mindset ties to motivation, confidence ties to motivation. And so my hope today is that you walk away with a little something. If nothing else, you are not alone. If you're an expert worrier, you are not alone. If you're saying unkind things to yourself, you are not alone if you're feeling hung up or stuck. And it doesn't have to be that way. And we can start to dig into wellness practices, healthy habits, new rituals and routines, and find a way to support your health and happiness. Until next time.